Our world is full of the richness, beauty, and the joy of sound, unless you are a child who has a hearing impairment. Parents all want the same things for their children, for them to be integral parts of their family, for them to be able to have neighborhood and school friends, for them to attain academic success and become independent, contributing members of society. The families we work with at the Auditory Verbal Center of Atlanta want those things too. There's just one catch: their children can't hear. Each year, 1 of every 3,000 babies in the United States is born with a hearing impairment. Still more acquire hearing loss through illness or trauma. 90% of these babies are born to parents who themselves have normal hearing. So what do you do? Where do you turn when you discover your baby can't hear? Since 1977, families have been turning to the Auditory Verbal Center of Atlanta to guide them and help their children maximize their potential to become listening, speaking, and fully participating members of the hearing world. The Auditory Verbal Center of Atlanta was founded with the belief and expectation that with patience, education, guidance, and family support, children who have any degree of hearing impairment can learn to listen and talk.
Light. You keep your lips apart, say light, light.
I got Christopher's deafness when he was 15 months old. And it's something we had suspected really since the time he was about 4 months old. And when we found out, it was pretty bad. I mean, we knew right away that it was profound. And since Allison, my wife's a speech pathologist, we knew almost right away that about our only hope would be a cochlear implant. Then the big question was, of course, well, what do we do for therapy and rehabilitation once he gets an implant? So the auditory verbal method and that whole approach was something that was completely new to us, and it's not something that we just naturally gravitated towards. However, we had some people who pointed us to the different options and that kind of thing, so we went up and we visited AVCA. It offered more than all the other programs really offered. And I mean, you know, when we first found out about Christopher's deafness, we were pretty devastated by it. I mean, all of a sudden, all these dreams and goals and what you think your kid's going to do and all those things. And you realize all this time your kid's never even heard your voice. He doesn't know the tenderness with which you speak or anything like that. And then all of a sudden, when we visited AVCA, the hopes that they held out for us were just amazing. But the big emphasis is on parent training, whereas all these other programs take your kid and say, here, let us work with your kid. The big thing about this approach is that it trains the parents. It teaches you what to do day in and day out. Every step along the way, it was like a miracle. And you know, that's what the implant and the auditory verbal gives you that you don't appreciate.
How that guy go?
Guy go, silly boy.
G-J, go.
On a Christmas Day, about 4 months later, he said his first word, spontaneous word, which to us is real language. That's natural language. Yeah, I mean, we just about fell out when that happened. When we first got the diagnosis, you know, the first thing that you think of is my kid will never have oral language. He'll never be able to talk to me. He'll never hear what I'm saying. And here our kid was starting to talk. Christopher soon began to pick up natural language, the kinds of expressions that he would hear, whether it was on TV or other kids and stuff like that. And Allison and I being so attuned to language, this was like a miracle almost every day.
My name is Christopher, and I'm 9 years old, and I go to Mountain Park Country School in 3rd grade. We do Demians and Cub Scouts. This is my first year. This was when I wasn't a Cub Scout, and if you're not a Cub Scout, you still get to race with the non-Cub Scouts. And this is when I was in Tigers, I think. I got 3rd place. Wildlife, conservation, geography, and weather, bicycling, swimming, badminton, frisbee, and bowling, and soccer. I'm still a bear, but I'm supposed to be legal now because I did all the stuff to become a bear.
Certainly does he operate in the mainstream in school and all that, always has. But even in something like baseball, there hadn't been any limitations really placed on him.
I've been on the All-Stars team for 2 years. Well, I've been on All-Star team for 2 years. Well, in the regular season, I was shortstop.
I mean, all those dreams that we thought were dashed when we first got his diagnosis and all of that, I mean, the auditory verbal approach has restored those things.
The auditory verbal approach follows a set of guiding principles that are essential for children with all degrees of hearing loss to succeed as listening, speaking communicators. These principles are: using spoken language to communicate regardless of the hearing impairment; early detection of hearing loss even before babies leave the hospital, using the best technology to give the child access to sound; supporting parents and caregivers as the primary models for spoken language and the child's earliest teachers; one-on-one teaching that fully involves the child, parent, and therapist in a specifically designed session, mainstreaming children from preschool on; teaching children to speak by listening to themselves and others, developing listening, language, speech, and thinking skills.
Listen. Good. Now he's very. That's away. Very good. She mad? Yes. She's mad. Yeah, she's mad. Okay. Oh, is it Parker? Parker's a boy.
The boy.
Yes.
Party too.
Yeah, he's wearing shoes. He's wearing tennis shoes. Yes. Yes. Correct. Good. Listen. E. Yes, beautiful. Very nice. Yes. Great. Okay, listen.
Oh, you heard I changed it, didn't I? Eem. Yeah. Good. Listen carefully. Oot. Oops. Listen again. Oot. Oot. Listen one more time. Oot. Oops. You heard it. You heard it. Odd. 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 Odd.
Let me hear it again.
Bow.
Bow. I heard bow. This one.
Boat.
Boat. Good, I heard it at the end. Boat.
Row.
Row. Row your boat.
No.
No.
Four.
Hold on. 4.
No.
No. I heard no.
Many people think hearing loss is an all or nothing event. You either hear everything or nothing. In fact, hearing loss can be mild, moderate, severe, or profound. Only 5% of all people with hearing loss are completely deaf. Children with mild to moderate hearing losses can't hear high-frequency speech sounds like S, T, and F, or environmental sounds like waves crashing to shore or crickets chirping unless they wear hearing aids. Children with severe to profound hearing impairments can't hear any speech, babies crying, or even dogs barking without the benefit of high-powered hearing aids or a cochlear implant. These same children need intensive instruction to learn to communicate. Many people still believe that children with severe and profound degrees of hearing loss must be taught visual or manual ways to communicate, like lip reading or sign language. Today, however, people with hearing impairments have the benefit of computer and digital technology that allows children with even the most profound degrees of hearing loss to access the sounds that make it possible for them to learn to communicate through listening and speaking. The most miraculous of these technologies is the cochlear implant. The cochlear implant is a surgically placed device that bypasses the damaged parts of the ear and directly stimulates the brain's auditory nerve. Children with cochlear implants can hear all the sounds of speech that they could never access with hearing aids.
Todd did an AVR for Robert, a hearing test, when he was 11 months old. And so we were told that day that he had a severe to profound hearing loss. And Dr. Todd pretty much said, go see Ellen Rhodes at AEC, now AVCA. So we called Ellen and made an appointment the next day. And we didn't ever really consider any other options.
How did you get on TV? I don't know. You just don't know.
Auditory verbal therapy, the main advice we were given was to bathe Robert in language. And auditory verbal therapy is doing that. We sat at our dining room table, like Robert by us, and we would, like one day, get out a bunch of farm animals, and we would talk about farm animals. This is the cow says moo. This is the dog says whoop whoop.
There's a pin in there for it. I'm going to show you.
Once they have kind of receptive language, their expressive language, once it starts building, it goes quickly. You just have to kind of build their receptive language, is what they call it, and then it goes pretty fast after that.
The table goes right here. That's where you're supposed to put your tray.
It was so wonderful once he learned to talk, and we were fortunate that Robert's speech was very good too. The quality of his speech. So,
is it? Oh, I need to decorate it. I know it's not decorated. We got to decorate this thing first.
He has done great in school. He really hasn't had any trouble at all.
We put it on top of our car.
What do you like to do outside of school?
I like to play baseball. But not, I like to go to practice and games, but
You like to play baseball. What else do you do outside of school?
Well, I have a creek behind my house, but you can't play in it because they have,
You got dirty.
sewage.
You can't play in the creek.
No, pushing that flag. Silly dog.
You
We made a rope swing across the creek with my friend Walter, and it's down there, but we can't use it because they make it too dirty.
Right.
That's a dog. That's a creek.
Yeah. First day when Robert had the AVR, and he said, you have a severe to profoundly impaired child, and the main thing is that you need to know is you need to not treat this child any differently. And that's really what auditory verbal does also. While you're doing all this therapy with them, when they go through the program, they're able to live just like anybody else. They don't need any help. Yeah, they're independent, and they just are able to live a normal life. Robert does whatever he wants to do. Tennis, baseball, he plays the cello and the guitar, he plays with his friends and his brother and sister outside. He has a completely independent, normal kid life.
See, those skis are like having big, long feet. They might. Ooh, that one is. He falls down.
Yeah, he is going to fall down. Sometimes he is. With his hearing aids on, he's a hearing child. That's kind of what auditory verbal does for you. You have a hearing child.
Oh, I don't like taking speeches in front of people. Like having to read a whole book out loud.
When do you have to read a whole book out loud?
Families who attend the Auditory Verbal Center of Atlanta not only get high-quality therapy services from experienced therapists, AVCA staff also includes 2 pediatric audiologists who are completely involved in every child's audiologic management. To meet the needs of our families and children with additional impairments, we offer consultations with a social worker and therapy with an occupational therapist who specializes in sensory integration. Because we recognize the needs of families outside of Metro Atlanta and the state of Georgia, we offer our Immersion Center and Practicum Site programs. The Immersion Center was designed for families from all over the world at any stage of auditory verbal therapy to spend 5 days with us, getting intensive evaluation and training in the auditory verbal approach. Only operating since July of 2000, the Immersion Center has already reached families from across the U.S., Puerto Rico, and the Dutch Antilles. Currently, there are very few certified auditory verbal therapists in the world. Many families, even in major cities, can't find auditory verbal therapists. Our practicum site trains professionals in the approach. We fully believe that all families who choose the auditory verbal approach should have access to a qualified, well-trained therapist.
In 1977, Ellen Rhodes and I co-founded the Auditory Verbal Center of Atlanta. Ellen was born in the early 40s and was a product of the experimental approach that we now use called the auditory verbal method. She was quite the inspiration for the center because she had lived the experience, and so she was there in living proof to the parents. We have 25 years of experience. We were doing this when we only had hearing aids to work with, and not the best hearing aids. They have improved so much since the 70s. And now we have the cochlear implant, which is absolutely miraculous and gives us more hearing within the speech range that we need to work with these children. I have what's called an immersion center, where parents come, and we have simulated a home environment where parents and their children come and have concentrated hours, days with us, learning about the approach, working with the child, seeing demonstrations on how to talk to the child, at what level, what volume. We have an on-staff audiologist who, if anything is happening with the hearing aids or the implants, she can see about that right then so we don't lose any valuable time. Really, deafness should not exist as we've known it. With the utmost faith in the technology and what the auditory verbal method of teaching can do after the implant or with excellent hearing aids, we are now seeing that children can develop normal speech and read age appropriate and be integrated as early as 5 or 6 years old into a regular school. There's no need for them to be in an isolated class.
The auditory verbal approach has the overriding goal that children with all degrees of hearing impairment can grow up in regular learning and living environments and become independent, fully participating members of mainstream society. Surveys of auditory verbal graduates showed that throughout their lives they were fully integrated into the hearing world. They participated in sports and scouting, graduated high school with the same academic standards as their hearing peers, and went on to higher education. They have become doctors, lawyers, teachers, investment bankers, and graphic designers, amongst other things. They talk on the phone, play musical instruments, and speak for themselves in the world. Thank you for listening.